is our table router. The table router is used to do decorative edges. Like this board right here has a decorative edge all the way around it. There are many different things you can actually do with a table router because there are many different router bits that can be set up. So I can't give you one exact setup that's going to work for every different type of router bit that there is. So what we're going to go over today is just the general safety and the basic setup of a standard router bit. This one is just a 3/8 inch round over bit is what this is called, because of that curve there. Has a bearing on it. And then down here is the shaft portion of the router bit. These are 1/2 inch shafts or shanks, which means the diameter of that is a 1/2 inch. And that's what this table router is set up to use. Now these router bits have carbide teeth on them, or carbide cutters. Carbide is very, very good for router bits because it is very sharp, holds the edge very well, and cuts quite clean. However, they are also brittle. So with the router bits, do not ever set them on a metal table, because one little bump on a metal table can actually chip the carbide there, and then we don't get a clean cutting router bit. Also hold on to them so you don't drop them. Anything like that can cause the carbide to chip off of it. So be very careful with those. And then this, of course, has a bearing on the top, like I pointed out, and the workpiece right against that bearing. So we'll set that up here in a minute. So on our table router here, we actually have a router mounted underneath inside there. It's similar to a hand router. A hand router you actually hold and move the router. This one we actually have mounted under the table and we move our workpiece across. We have the fence right here. This orange part is called a finger guard. So when we set it up, which I'll show you in a minute, it protects your fingers from sliding into the router. This particular router is a variable speed router. It can change from 10,000 RPMs up to 21,000 RPMs. What are RPMs? Revolutions per minute. Very good. So if we're turning at 21,000 revolutions per minute, how many is that per second? How would we calculate that? Figure out how many revolutions per second. So we take 21,000, divide that by 60, that'll tell me how many revolutions per second this is spinning, which it comes out to about 350, what that is. So in 1 second, that bit is going to spin 350 times. That's on its highest speed. At 10,000 RPMs in 1 second, it's around 170, 180 times per second. Somewhere in there. So it's moving very, very quickly. So you've got to make sure you pay attention to your fingers. Don't ever let them get near the cutter head at any time for any reason, because they will cut up your fingers very quickly, and it does quite a bit of damage if you get into it. So be very careful with that. Alright, first thing we need to do is talk about changing the bit. So I'm going to show you how to go through and change the router bit in this particular machine. The very first step that we do in changing a router bit is unplug the router. So there's absolutely no chance of the router turning on. On this particular setup, whoops, came undone right there. On the switch right here, we have a plug that it goes into. This cable or cord right here goes to the router. The other one from here goes from the switch to the outlet on the wall. As long as we unplug the router from the switch, we have no power to it, and it's not going to come on. I just set the plug up there so I can see it. Right now, this one is actually unplugged from the wall as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because I have unplugged it from the switch here. So even if this were plugged in, like it is right now, the switch right here is still not going to turn the router on because the router is unplugged. Okay? So we do need to make sure that's in the off position, so when we plug the router back in, it doesn't turn the router on. Alright, so now we've got that done. We're going to take a collar off of this. There's a plastic plate, it's called the collar. We're going to take that off. There's 3 screws there that we have to remove. And it looks like my Phillips bit, oh, there it is on this side. Little Phillips bit, we're going to remove those screws. We need to be very careful not to drop the screws down inside the router while we're doing this. So pull the screws out, and then I just set them in this little track right here so they don't fall out. Screw out. The 3rd screw actually got lost last year, so right now we only have stop and finish the rest of them next time. So to continue changing the router bits here, we've taken the plate out. Remember, this plate is there so that you don't have pieces falling down into the opening here when you're routing. The bigger the router bit, the bigger opening you need here on the plate. The screws are sitting right here from the plate. We'll make sure not to lose those. In order to change the bit now, we've got to raise that router bit up higher than the level of the table. In order to do that, we use this little socket with a wrench on it. It drops right onto the socket there, and we crank that right on up, like that. That way we can access both places where we need to hold it with the wrench. There's a lower nut and an upper nut right there. Then we got to loosen the top one, and that way we can get the router bit up. Here's our wrenches. One goes on the bottom, one goes on the top. Then you position the wrenches right, you just squeeze it together to loosen. And then that bit pulls out of there like that. You know, remember we talked about the router bit. This is the shape portion right here, and we have a bearing on the top and then the profile right here. I also want to show you that collet. Let me show you the collet. This part right here is what actually holds the router bit as it goes down into there. When we tighten it up, it actually squeezes onto that router bit. If you don't tighten this back up tight enough and that router bit comes loose while you're using it, it'll create a dangerous situation where it can come out of the router and cutting. So make sure it's tight. Also, you notice that the shank or shaft portion is sticking out about 1/8 of an inch right there. Somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 is how far you want that coming out. You don't want it all the way in the bottom. Okay. So we'll put that back in, tighten it up. Actually, I'm going to put the other bit in because that's not the one I want to use. We're going to go with that one right there. Put that one into a round one. Again, if you position the wrenches properly, as you put the top one to the right, you can squeeze and tighten. Make sure your wrench tightening so they're good and snug. Then we're going to lower this back down, and we're going to set it so that where this curve of the router bit is there's a straight lip. We're going to set that lip so it's about 1/8 inch below the surface of the table, and 1/8 inch sticking up above the surface. So we're going to split the difference. Bring that back down. And I'm going to put the collar plate back on. Screws back in now. You don't need to over tighten these, but they do need to be snug. Make sure you put those screws back in, because if you don't, that collar is going to come loose and you get caught as well. Now that height right here is still a little bit too high, I can see now, so we'll crank it down. And each bit's a little bit different, so it just depends on what you're trying to do with the profile of the bit to determine your height. So I can't give you one setting that's going to work perfectly for each time. Alright. Now that I've got that adjusted, move my wrenches out of the way, shelf, I'm going to go ahead and plug this back in. Hopefully our switch is off, because if the switch here is on, it will kick on. So you can see the switch is in the off position. So now we're ready to adjust the fence. The fence is typically, when it has a bearing on it, it's going to go flush with the bearing. You just use a straight edge. You can use a ruler or a straight board. That fence right up to the edge. Lock down the back lock. Make sure it's flush in front of that bearing. And now that bit is changed, ready to go. This orange finger guard here, to adjust that, we just loosen these knobs, and that adjusts up or down. We want to have enough space so that our board slides under it easily, but that our fingers can't go underneath. So we raise it up so it's about 1/8 inch or so above our work. That way our fingers aren't going to go under, but the board can slide under easily. Okay, when when we're shaping or routing, I guess I should say, on the table router, always route end grain first. It's the ends of your boards. When you're routing, you have a chance of chipping out or blowing out the back edge. So do that first. Also, if you'll get a piece of scrap wood, push block is what I like to call it, that has been plain and same thickness as yours, put it directly behind it and use it as you're pushing through. So this one's a little bigger than you'd want. Let it go directly behind like that. That way as it cuts through your workpiece, it cuts into the scrap piece instead of blowing out your scrap piece. Okay? Now this is bigger than you need, but that's just an example. And if your piece is ever 3 inches or less, always use a push stick, like the ones on the joiner. Grab a push stick so you can run through safely without your fingers being near the cutter. What's our feed direction? Anybody recall? We go right to left or left to right? What is it, Cole? Huh? Right to left. How do you determine that? Okay, so whatever the way the blade's spinning, we go against the rotation. If we go with it, it's going to go try to throw our board. Okay, that's our table router. Let's get set up and we'll make some